Hello guys, welcome to the C++ tutorial series. In this video, we'll learn about strings in C++. My name is Kafui and welcome to my channel mod.dev. Please subscribe and like to help the channel grow and turn on the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I release a content on the channel. With that said, let's begin. Now, when we talk about strings simply refers to a sequence of characters. So we can output out a string literal, for instance, hello world to the console using the cout object. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And I hope by now most of us should be familiar with this. And then output, and then when I run my code, hopefully the string hello world gets outputted in the console. So we can store string literals in the string data type. The C++ library provides a compound data type string, which is part of the std namespace. So in order to make use of the string data type, we have to include the string header into our file. So I'll go ahead and include the string header file into our source file using the include directive. So I'll use the include directive. And since this is part of the C++ library, we have to use angle bracket and then string and then close it with what? Angle bracket or greater than symbol. Then in order to declare a string or initialize a string, I'll use the std namespace, then the string data type, then the name of the variable, and then initialize it. Over here, I'll just use a simple hello world. And then terminate it. Let me do that properly and save. So what I did over here was I initialized a string called with the variable name message with the string data type, which is made available to us in the std namespace, which is part of the C++ library. So I can go ahead and then cout or print that to the console, then the name of the string. And when I run my code with the shortcut Shift plus F10, we get the string hello world outputted in the console. So this is how we can store strings in a variable or initialize strings or declare strings in C++. I can go ahead and do another one. Say std string username. Let me write that username and say this should be what? John Doe, and save. And then I'll go ahead and output what? Username to the console and run my code, and then we get what? John Doe outputted in the console. So the next thing I would like us to look at is how we can put two strings together using the addition symbol, which is normally referred to as string concatenation. So I'll just go ahead and then declare a string. So I'll say std string, and for this example, I'll just use the variable name s1 and then initialize it to the string hello. Then another string, let's say s2, and then initialize it to world. I think, okay, I should use double quotes here, not single quotes. Now, we can put these strings together using the addition operator, which is normally referred to as string concatenation, and it goes like this: std string, and then let me say this is s3 is equal to s1 plus s2, and then save. So what we've done here is called what? String concatenation. String concatenation. So this is what we refer to as what? String concatenation, putting two or more strings together using the addition operator. So I can go ahead and then output this to the console, s3, and then when I run my code with Shift plus F10, we get hello world outputted in the console. So this is how we can put two strings together in C++. The next thing I want us to talk about is how to access the individual characters of a string. So in order to access the individual characters of a string, we can use the square braces, and then in square braces we pass in the index of the character we want to access. So we know that this s3 string is the hello world string. So let's say I want to access the h in this string. We know that h is at the index of what? 0. So I'll pass in 0, and when I run my code, we get what? H outputted in the console. So let me just pass in 6, an index of 6, and then hopefully W gets outputted in the console. So this is how we can access this is one way we can access the position or the index, the individual elements in a string using what? The square braces. Another way we can do this is using the at member function. So I'll just say std cout, then the name of the string, then I'll use the at member function, which is part of the string object, and then in the parentheses I pass in what? The index of the individual string member I want to access. So I'll just go ahead and then write 3 over here and then terminate this, and when I run it, we get what? L outputted. When I change it to, let's say, 5 and run my code, okay, so that is empty space. Then let's say 7 and run my code. That is what? Oh, so this is how we can access the individual characters in a string. Now, the last thing we'll talk about in this video is how to accept string input from our console. So we know that, let me just go ahead and comment this out quickly. So we know that we can accept input. Let me just give this int x and then say std cout enter a number, and then we use the C. So in order to, let's say, accept an input from the console, we use the cin object and then the string extraction operator, and then we read into what? That value into that string. So when I run this code, we get what? So when I enter a random number, we get that number, and then I can just std or cout that value. So run my code again. We get, let me enter a random number. We get the number outputted to us. But when we do this with strings, in order to read input from the console in string, we use the getLine function. We use the getLine function, which is part of the standard library, the C++ standard library. So let me just go ahead and initialize a string and say std string message, and then initialize it, and then cout enter a message. Then we use the std getLine. It's a function. Now in the getLine method, member function or method, we have to, the first argument we pass to it is where we are reading the input from. So we are reading from the standard input, and then the variable we want to read into. So we want to read into what? The message variable. And then I save my code. So what I did was I initialized a string variable called message, and then I'm outputting the message, a simple message to the console, enter a message, and then we are reading the string from the console using the getLine member function from the standard library, and then we are passing 2 arguments. The first argument is where we are reading from, and then the second argument is the variable in which we want to read our string into. Then finally I can cout and say you entered the message, then message. Now when I run my code, we get enter a message. Let me just enter a message, hello world, and press enter. We get the result, you enter the message, hello world. And when I run my code again, shift plus F10, let me just say hi there, and run my code, we get you enter the message, hi there. So one may ask, why are we using this getLine member function to read and not the cin. One advantage of the getLine member function is that it reads white spaces. So in case we enter a string that includes a white space, the getLine member function reads it as well. But when we use the cin object, let me just say cin, and then let's say message. What the cin will do is it doesn't read white spaces. So when we enter a string which includes white spaces, it ignored it. So let me just write hello world, and then when I press enter, you see we get the message. You enter the message hello, so it ignores white spaces. So it just output the first part of what the string, which is not what we want in our code. So that's why we use the getLine member function to read strings from the console. So that is it about string in C++, and that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.